feel like this is just something you have to get up and close and personal for. Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time, but that's because school just finished and I was low-key kind of depressed, so I was like, I'm not gonna record anything. I was like, I'm gonna record it, and then I just was so exhausted from the semester. But I'm back and I'm here to do my favorite look, which is kind of like a pink blush look. It's kind of like a Barbie theme, so okay, first things first, I'm gonna start off with my eyebrows, and I put Huda beauty powder on my eyebrows to smooth them out and make sure I have an easy base for my pen to write on. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that first and just lightly dab some powder on both eyebrows. Next up, I'm going to go in with my ABH pencil. I have the shade Ash Brown, and it's the Brow Wiz pencil, and I like it because it's really slim, and I just kind of outline my eyebrows. Like, I just do light whiffs to get like my shape in. I don't want to do too much because I don't want it to look like a Sharpie mark. So you just do light motions to fill in your eyebrow where your hairs are. As you can see, I'm not going too overboard with the eyebrows. I kind of want them to be light and natural. That's kind of the look I'm going for. I don't want anything to be too much. So I'm going to go in with my L'Oreal Infallible Concealer in the shade 410 Honey to clean up the bottom of my brows. And when I'm doing this, I'm just making sure I just use this opportunity to make my brows in the shape that exactly how I want them and just clean them up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead with the bottom. Top, I'm going to use 420, which is like one shade lighter than me, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up the entire brow. Just make sure I get that sharpened eyebrow look. Go in with just any type of brush, like my powder brush, and just clean up the harsh lines of the concealer under my eyebrows, just so it doesn't look too harsh. Onto the primer, I'm going to be using my favorite primer, and funny story, I've been using this primer totally wrong. So when you're using this primer, you want to dab it into your face. You do not want to rub it. You want to dab the product all over your face. That's the only way it's going to be able to grip the makeup. I've been rubbing it for years saying that it doesn't work, but that's because I have been using it incorrectly. So here's how you do it. You just dab it, and I always have to go back for my forehead because my head is so big, but yeah, I'm just going to dab it onto my forehead the same way I dab it on the bottom of my face. After you fully put on your primer, you do want it to dry for 2 minutes before you apply your foundation. So now I'm going to go in with my NARS concealer in the shade New Caledonia, and first I take my, I have this foundation brush that I take and I just put the product all over my face in swipes. I don't dab it, I don't rub it in. I'm gonna dab it in with my foundation brush. So here I am dabbing the foundation in. I don't want to rub it, I just want to go and make sure I get full coverage all across the whole entire face. Just doing these dabbing motions and just making sure that I'm getting every single area. Go on my forehead. I have a lot of discoloration on my forehead, so I do put more foundation than other people, so you don't have to put as much as I do. Next up, I'm going to go in with my curve case by Made by Mitchell, and I have Deep, and I'm going to go in with Chocolate Charm because I am in my winter shade right now, and I don't want anything too harsh for a contour. I just want to kind of warm up my face a little bit and just give it some sort of definition. So if you can see that chocolate reddish color, and I'm going to go in with my flat bronzing brush, and I'm just going to like dab it into the skin to create some sort of definition.
but I don't want it to be too heavy. Now I'm going to go in my Born This Way Too Faced concealer in the shade Chestnut. And what I do is I use a brush to apply my concealer because I feel like that gives me the best coverage. So I go in on the inner corners of my eyes and the outer corners, and I just make sure that I apply it fully. And you also want to make sure that your concealer is 2 shades lighter than you, as you can see. Well, maybe 3, because this is seeming a little bit of like 3 shades. And you want to go ahead and go on your nose bridge, top of your forehead, and of course the upper part of your lip. Now I do like to let my concealer set in for about 2 minutes before I start blending it, just to make sure that I get the full coverage look. To start blending, I'm going to take one of my flat concealer blushes and I'm going to go ahead and start blending on the outside first and work my way in for the under eye concealer, just to make sure I don't have any harsh lines and make sure all the product stays in place. Look how seamless that concealer is. You want to make sure you fully blend everything all together. Don't be afraid. If it takes a long time, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you fully blend everything. Don't rush. You don't want it to be too choppy, so make sure you just do slight hand motions. And for me to fully blend out my face, I know this is sped up. It probably takes me about 10 minutes just to blend out my concealers. Up close and personal, look how seamless this is. Perfect. Flawless. Bomb. Now we're going to go to the forehead and just make sure you clean up the forehead and just dab the outside first and then move to the inside. Like, if you know what that means. And then you're going to go ahead and do the bridge of the nose. I already did the top of my mouth off camera. For some reason, I just forgot to click record. Now I'm going to go in with my Juvia's Place Peach Rose. This is the best blush ever. It's just such a beautiful pink and it's so buildable and I just love it so much. So you're going to put it right under your eyes. You want to get that like high 21st century blush look. So you want to make sure it's above your contour, like right under your eye. See the placement, how beautiful it is? Now I'm going to look all close and personal, kind of like an L shape, and you just want to sit there. And for the blending, I do like to take a small brush so I can make sure it's very defined, and I just go back and forth and just make sure that I'm fully blending in the product. You don't want it to be like concealer, blush, so you want to make sure you take your time when you're blending the brush and make sure you blend in an upward motion. When I am blending the blush, I do like to go a little bit into the inner eye corner. So you see how I have some blush on top of my eyelid? I like to make sure I have that. I don't know, it's just a cute look and it just makes sure it's very defined. I do have an oval face, so I want to make sure that I have definition at all times. Now that I've fully blended out my blush, I'm going to go in with my e.l.f. Cameo Concealer in the shade Deep Olive. Fun fact, I had to go to Target to get this because for some reason they don't sell it at Ulta, but whatever. I'm going to go in with my flat concealer brush, and this time I'm not going to do the outer corners of the eye. I'm just going to do the inner corners, and I just make sure I place just a teeny little bit, like not too much, just a teeny bit. Okay, when it comes to blending, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my damp beauty blender, and you want to make sure that it's extremely damp. And you just want to go in slowly and make sure you take your time when you're blending. I have to look up at times just to make sure I really got in under my eye. So you just want to go ahead and take a really damp beauty blender. You don't want it to be too wet, but just make sure you squeeze all the water out and go underneath both eyes. Look how seamless that is. Perfect. Now I'm going to go in with my Anastasia Beverly Hills Translucent Powder. This powder is okay. It's not necessarily my favorite, but I needed a really big powder and this was the best bang for my buck. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure I start to bake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack the powder under my eyes. I'm going to pack it. Like, you want to look like you're playing in snow, boo. Pack the powder under your eyes. Like, boop, 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 boop. Like, I was making sure, like, it was falling all over my chest and everything. Like, I was making sure I packed that powder, because you really want to make sure you get like a seamless look. Okay, for the bottom of my face, I'm just going to go ahead and dab it under my chin. I'm obviously not going to put as much powder as I would put underneath my eyes. And for my forehead, I'm also just going to dab it. And I'm also going to do the bridge of my nose where I have concealer, and I'm just going to dab it. Everywhere where I have concealer, I'm going to make sure I put translucent powder just to make sure I can set the concealer. Now, to avoid harsh lines, you see, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to kind of brush off the edge of the powder. I'm going to go under my eyes, my nose, just because you don't want to have a harsh white line of powder. So you're going to brush off the edges. You will keep the bake in the middle, but the edges, you want to make sure you brush off the excess powder. I am going to begin to dust off the powder on the bottom of my chin and the top of my forehead, just because I do not want that to sit too long, because I do not want it to make a harsh white line. So I'm just going to go ahead and dust those off after sitting for about 30 seconds. I don't want it to be anything too extreme. Now I'm going to go with my Morphe contour palette in the shade 8D, and I'm just going to go ahead with like my fluffiest brush, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I do my powder contour, because I already did my cream contour, but just to seal it all out and make sure we have layers of makeup, I'm going to go in with a bronzer. As you can see, I'm using the lightest shade of my bronzer because I don't want it to be too harsh. Sometimes I do get carried away and I have this like 2016 Kim Kardashian bronzer that looks atrocious in pictures, by the way. So you're gonna go ahead and just dab it lightly everywhere where I put the cream contour, so across the forehead and on the cheekbones. It's really aggravating doing eyeshadow looks when I have extensions on, so I'm going to go ahead and take my darkest shade of brown and I'm going to put it on my eyelid just to make sure I have something on there, just to so it doesn't look too weird, and just to pull my eyes out. I used to use my hyperpigmentation as eyeshadow, but I got rid of it on my eyelid, so now I have to physically go in and do it. So after doing your powder contour, you are going to go in with your translucent powder and go right under your contour just to make sure that it pops and it stands out and it just gives it more definition. So we're going to put that into place to make sure that it sets. Now it's time for my favorite part, which is the lip combo. So I do take my translucent powder and put it all over my lip. I look like a crackhead right now, but it is okay, because when you put the powder on top of your lip, it just makes sure, what's it called, lip liner glide on easier, and it just makes it last all day. The first lip liner I'm going to use is the MAC lip liner in the shade Burgundy. I wish it was a little bit darker, but it's the best lip liner, so I don't have no choice but to bear with them. Due to the Burgundy lip liner being a little bit lighter, I do go in with the Hourglass. It's an eyeliner, but I use it as a lip liner in the shade Chestnut, and I use this as like a second liner to outline my lips. Now that my lips are all lined up, I am going to go in with my NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Vanilla Cream Pie. I love this because it's just such a vibrant pink that I feel like companies do not make anymore. For some reason, like I remember I was trying to get like a really good vibrant pink and I went to Sephora and nobody had it. So I'm just so happy NYX is here for the girls. But I love this shade, and I found it off of a girl on TikTok. I was like, girl, what shade is this? And she told me, and I was just like, what a beautiful pink. I have to have it. Now it's time to go in for my pink blush. I'm going to use Volume 4 from Juvia's Place. This is the best blush ever, and I just dab it, and Honestly, I'm not going to do too much because it is kind of like a natural look. Last weekend, I did do like an Amaya Colon inspired look to where I OD'd on the blush, but today I just want it to be natural. So I just dabbed it one time and I spent most of the time blending it, just going back and forth and just make sure I had a smooth transition between all the different pieces of makeup. Now I'm going to go into my Morphe palette again, and I'm just going to do powder contour on my nose. And I'm just going to do the bridge of my nose because I've noticed like my nose shape, I don't have a problem with it. So when I contour, I just do the bridge of my nose just to add more definition to it. To blend out the bottom of my face, I'm going to take a buffing brush. And a buffing brush is just a very dense brush because I want to make sure there are no harsh lines. And you're just going to go full force. Like, I'm definitely applying all the pressure to make sure I blend out all of this translucent powder. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm using like my full force on this thing. Like, I'm not even kidding. Now for my under eyes, I do take my 402 powder brush. I have like 4 of these brushes, you guys. They're so bomb, and you know I use them for a lot of different stuff. And I just go under the eye, and don't be scared if you think it's too white. Just take your time and blend it out fully. It's kind of, make sure you look up at times because there were times that I almost got powder in my eyes. Just make sure you take your time. And if you do think it's still white at the end, don't fret because setting powder will save the day. Just to make sure you don't look crazy, you're going to go ahead and take your beauty blender and put translucent powder on the bottom of your face. And you're also going to buff this out with your buffing brush. Just make sure that you get it all across your face so it doesn't look too crazy. Now it's time for the setting sprays. For the first setting spray that I'm going to use, I'm definitely going to go in with my Charlotte Tilbury spray, because I just think it's the best spray ever. I got the mini one because I have so many setting sprays. I was just like, let me not get the full size. That wouldn't make any sense. Bam! There it is. This is the makeup look. You do not need to book a makeup artist every single time. Look how amazing I look! And I did this myself. Okay, you guys, take notes. Watch the video. And just focus on technique. It's pretty simple. And just for time context, it did take me about 1 hour and 30 minutes to do. So don't be thinking because the video sped up like, oh no. It takes a couple times, boo, to say, like it takes some time.